recording.
In StreamYards.
Testing your speakers in StreamYard. Sounds like they're working. Anyway, do you like that? I like that song.
I don't dislike it.
Okay, you can just dislike it.
So, Kitty, this is an Elend that I like.
Really? Okay. Well,
I'm
impressed.
impressed.
I get you. Yeah, I think Elend, I'm impressed with for Elend. I am obviously comparing him to Calcia all the way. And maybe that's where I was sitting most of the time for this chapter. But it wasn't like me going, oh, Elend sucks. It's just more like, Elend, not Calcia. Look at Elend, who's not Calcia. So
he's definitely a bit ineffectual in this chapter as well, up until he starts being really awesome.
Yeah, he needs to do that more often, yeah.
And I do have to say that ever since you helped me, Kitte, reframe Elend so far in this book, instead of rather feeling admiration for Kelsier to an insecurity, and I don't know how I didn't see it that way at first, but I have a lot more empathy, and I like him a lot more since that switch was flipped for me.
I helped. I'm so glad.
Yeah. Oh, there's a new character. We'll talk about it when we get to her.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting. Oh gosh, I avoided that so hard. Yes, we'll get there.
I have some opinions and I have some predictions.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Also, I have such paranoia. Okay, this whole chapter. Okay, well, the whole Elend part of it. The paranoia for finding out who the imposter is. Every line of all of the crew members, I'm like, is it you? Is it you? So, like, I'm broken by that. Yeah.
I mean, there is one particular character who speaks a lot more than you and I are used to hearing him speak.
Yeah. In certain places that you wouldn't expect him to as well.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway. I hated that. I hate not knowing, but I also love not knowing. So, great.
Hello and welcome to the No One Asked You podcast. For this particular series, I am joined by my wonderful co-host, Matt Dorn Kitty.
Dorkus and I are both going into this story completely new with almost no knowledge of the story or world.
Each segment, we intend to cover what happens in each new chapter and discuss our experience along the way.
Hold on to your butts, because this is Ascension Unleashed, a blind read-through, and today we will be covering Chapter 13!
Chapter 13! When I finally had the realization, finally connected all of the signs of the anticipation to Alendi, I was so excited. Yet when I announced my discovery to the other Worldbringers, I was met with scorn. Oh, how I wish I had listened to them.
Ooh.
Anticipation
with a capital
A. Thanks.
Yeah. I said anticipation equals prophesied signs. It's the prophecy.
Presumably, yeah.
I'm anticipating the anticipation. Please give us the anticipation on the walls. What Sazed is doing.
Yes. On the charcoal drawings.
Yes, please. Also, what are Worldbringers?
We're familiar with the term the conclave of Worldbringers, right?
Yeah. And like we've encountered it before, and it's just like I was like, what do we talk Worldbringers? What do they bring? They're not
the UN
special. Yeah, they're not other beings. They're just like leaders, it seems like. But also having with this sort of stuff, it makes me go, how sprawling is this Cosmere thing? Anyway.
So you think it's connected to literally other worlds?
I don't think so. Not that I don't think they know. I think it is connected, but I don't think they know how.
I'm inclined to agree, actually.
Yeah, they don't know how, and we'll discuss that. I think that's another discussion we can have in a different format.
Yes, by now, Storming the Archives should be airing. Check it out.
Yeah. So it's definitely, that's definitely snuck in now that we're reading
Yeah, same.
it.
Not in a
But
bad
also,
way.
yeah, not in
I
a bad
don't,
way.
yeah, in good
So,
ways, things that are making us think.
I love that. I'm enjoying it. I like we're theorizing, and that's part of the fun we have here. That was
I hear
Alexa. She can't help us with the theories, guys. Sorry.
she probably could if we asked, but
Yeah,
let's
she
not.
probably she has knowledge that we do not, which is fine for now. Also, just another thing. So we got the prophecies, right? The anticipation. And yes, there was wrongness involved. There was incorrect, the wrong person. But what usually happens is stuff happens the way it's supposed to in any case. Like this, everything happened as it was supposed to for the prophecy to come true later on. This had to have happened. That's what I'm.
Yes.
That's what I'm feeling.
What is free will?
Yeah, we will not
Preordained.
answer that.
The silent whispers.
The sun. What are they? Well, the something wants him to succeed. Something wants him to. Anyway.
Or someone will succeed eventually.
I love that word. Eventually. Eventually they won. Yeah. So anything else? He wished he had listened to them. You know what? I want to hear what they had against Alendi. What was making them say, were they like, no, it's not him? Tell us what that was. Exactly. Was it just because he's an outsider? But you said that he was going to be an outsider. So all of those I need to know, because those would probably point to who it really is.
I would imagine some of their issues would not be dissimilar to Alendi's concern from the epigraphs, where he's like, yeah, this could work if you think about it a certain way. I'm suspecting that the World Bringers might have said, no, that's not clear. I disagree with your interpretation.
Yeah. Well, I want to hear. Listen, hurry up, Sazed. I need the anticipation.
Yes. Mist swirled and spun like monochrome paints running together on a canvas. Light died in the west and night came of age. Vin frowned.
Does it seem like the mists are coming earlier?
Earlier? Orasor asked in his muffled voice. The Kondra wolfhound sat next to her on the rooftop.
Before, the mists didn't start to appear till after it grew dark, right?
It is dark, mistress.
But they're already here. They started together when the sun was barely beginning to set.
I don't see that it matters, mistress. Perhaps the mists are simply like other weather patterns. They vary sometimes.
Doesn't it even seem a little strange to you?
I will think it strange if you wish me to, mistress.
That isn't what I meant.
I apologize, mistress. Tell me what you do mean, and I will be certain to believe as commanded. I like Orasor so much in this chapter, by the way.
Yeah. I'm enjoying him.
Yeah, I'm really getting the... they're going to be friends by the end of this, I hope.
Yeah, I hope so too. I think they're developing. I'm enjoying their relationship. I mean, I was before, but it's even better now.
Yeah.
And yeah, we get... Part of what I loved about the chapter is that sort of insight into him and the relationship.
And some of the implications of the questions that Vin asks him, and we'll get to what some of it could mean. Tell me what you do mean, and I will be certain to believe as commanded. Vin sighed, rubbing her brow.
I wish Sazed were back,
she thought. It was an idle wish. Even if Sazed were in Luthadel, he wouldn't be her steward. The Terraceman no longer called any man master. She'd have to make do with Orasor. The Kondra, at least, could provide information that Sazed could not, assuming she could get it out of him.
We need to find the imposter, the one who replaced someone.
Yes, mistress. Vin sat back in the mists, reclining on a slanted rooftop, resting her arms back on the tiles.
Then I need to know more about you.
Me, mistress?
Kondra in general. If I'm going to find this imposter, I need to know how he thinks. I need to understand his motivations.
His motivations will be simple, mistress. He will be following his contract.
What if he's acting without a contract?
Orasor shook his canine head. Kondra always have a contract. Without one, they are not allowed to enter human society.
Okay, so we've got Vin doing what my brain just didn't go immediately to last episode, which is ask the freaking Candra.
Yes.
So that's what we want. Good, well done. And here is one of our first major revelations. Or
Yes.
is it a revelation? Because my question for this was, is it by law or by lore? Huh? See what I said there? Actually, and then I realized that they both actually no. That I thought I was being smart, but that doesn't make sense. Because is it biological? Is it that they actually really can't do whatever, like they are incapable, or is it just a cultural thing?
I think it's a cultural thing.
Mm.
Because Vin has a line later about needing to read the contract, which suggests a physical contract of some kind, not some sort of magical spell type thing. So, and we had wondered, I think a chapter or two ago, about what a Khandra society might be like. And if there is indeed one, especially if there's an AI overlord, like we theorized, or something to that effect, something equivalent, then there would be laws, presumably, about how they can interact with other societies.
Yeah. We'll get more into this discussion, but it is like, how breakable are these laws? I would like,
yes, because Orasur is going to say something, and I'm going to be like, that is gonna not be true, but we'll get to that.
We'll get there. Very juicy stuff this chapter with this discussion.
Yeah, I love this chapter. Before I forget, the part about Sazed, do you think that Brandon Sanderson is doing some wibbly wobbly timey-wimey stuff with the Sazed chapters, such that they are happening at a different time that we are experiencing Vin in?
Yeah, like he's closer than. Oh, I don't know.
Because, well, maybe I should have saved that question for when we get to the end of the chapter, but yeah, let's save it for there.
We will discuss. I think either way. It could happen. That's what we just don't know whether it is what he's doing. Anyway, we'll get to it. What if he's acting without a contract?
Khandra always have a contract. Without one, they are not allowed to enter into human society.
Never?
Never.
And what if this is some kind of rogue Khandra?
Such a thing does not exist, Orasur said firmly. Remember that line, because I have a prediction.
Okay, because I'm like, that's good for you. I know what exists for you in your culture.
Yeah.
But some things are possible. Nothing is set in stone or steel. Well, actually, we do. Sorry. Don't make that joke.
Do you think it could be a rogue Khandra?
I don't. I think it's a misdirect. I think there is something roguish about this Khandra, maybe, but not to the point of completely going against. Am I just saying what I hope? Yeah, I'm saying what I hope, because I can't give you a reason for why.
I have a prediction, but I'm saving it for the line.
Okay.
On this very topic. But I think there will be at some point a rogue Khandra. I will say that much and go into detail later.
I think he'll be ours. Anyway, let's go.
Such a thing does not exist.
Oh?
Vin thought skeptically, but she let the matter drop. There was a little reason for a Khandra to infiltrate the palace on his own. It was far more likely that one of Elend's enemies had sent the creature. One of the warlords, perhaps, or maybe the obligators. Even the nobility in the city would have good reason to spy on Elend.
Okay. The Khandra is a spy, sent to gather information for another human.
Yes.
But if he did take the body of someone in the palace, he didn't kill them himself. Khandra can't kill humans, right?
We are all bound by that rule. Very good to know.
How bound? Dorkus, how bound?
How bound? It is good to know, because I think we were questioning about this very topic previously, It's noteworthy that Kelsier did not specifically order Orisor not to kill people, and neither did Vin. That is an all Kandra thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that certainly makes being assassins more difficult. You can't just send Orisor in to assassinate Straff.
Yeah. They're spies. They're not assassins. They can't double as spies. I mean, as assassins. Yeah. But yeah, they're bound by that rule. See, the whole thing, I'm like, Sanderson, are you just tricking us? I'm just, the way that it's said, I'm like, are you, and I don't know, because I know that he could just do a switcheroo, a bait and switch. So I'm just, okay, fine. I'm going along with it. I'm going along with the curiosity.
A part of me is wondering if it's an unbreakable vow type situation where if they break the contract, they just drop dead or something.
That's why I asked the question, how bound? Like, does that really, like, they literally cannot go rogue? Such a thing does not exist. That doesn't answer it for me either. It's like, does that mean that they cease to exist if they go rogue? You know? Stop being so cryptic, doggy.
Or maybe they're just not considered Kandra anymore.
They're like a way around.
Yeah. That doesn't mean they don't. That just means you categorize them differently, Orisor.
Yeah.
We are all bound by that rule.
So somebody snuck into the palace, murdered a member of the staff, then had their Kandra take the body. The most dangerous possibilities, the crew members, should be considered first. Fortunately, since the killing happened yesterday, we can eliminate Breeze, who was outside the city at the time. We can eliminate Elend as well. He was with us on the wall yesterday.
That still leaves the majority of the crew, mistress. Vin frowned.
I know! Sorry. I know! That's scary. Okay, go.
Vin frowned, sitting back. She'd tried to establish solid alibis for Ham, Dachshund, Clubs, and Spook. All of them had at least a few hours unaccounted for, long enough for a Kandra to digest and take their place.
All right. So how do I find the imposter? How can I tell him from other people?
Orisor sat quietly in the mists.
There has to be a way. His imitation can't be perfect. Would cutting him work?
Kandra replicate a body perfectly, mistress. Blood, flesh, skin, and muscle. You have seen that when I split my skin.
I just love how Vin is willing to cut to figure out who this guy is. Just cut it. Yeah, let's just cut it. Everybody line up. Let's go. You know? Because
the Kandra would be so willing to sit there and let it happen.
Yeah, I love that.
Finn sighed, standing and stepping up on the tip of the peaked rooftop. The mists were already full, and the night was quickly becoming black. She began to walk idly back and forth on the ridge, an Alamancer's balance keeping her from falling.
Perhaps I can just see who isn't acting oddly. Are most Kandra as good at imitation as you are?
Among Kandra, my own skill is average. Some are worse, others are better.
But no actor is perfect.
Kandra don't often make mistakes, mistress. But this is probably your best method. Be warned, he could be anyone. My kind are very skilled. So, there could be some off acting. There could be.
Yeah. But the big question that I still have does not get answered here. Does not get asked or even answered here. The memories.
What's your question? The memories. Oh, yes.
Do they know memories? Because that paints, like, we'll get to it when we get to the crew members, but that is a very big deal. We need to know.
Yeah.
How does a Kandra perform so well? What they replicate? Yes, they replicate the body and everything, but what do they know about who they're digesting? What would they be able to glean about that actual person? So that's what I want to know.
And there is a very specific line later regarding it's not just who they take over, it's who they become. So
yeah. So what I'm thinking currently is that there is some sort of memory transfer, something.
That's what I would imagine as well.
But it's not everything. It's not clear. It's not one-to-one.
Right.
That's what I think. Yeah, we'll see. We'll get there. We didn't discuss the mists appearing earlier, by the way.
Okay, let's have that conversation now then.
Yeah, so the mists coming earlier, I think that is something to think about.
Yeah,
That is something to worry about.
things are getting worse.
But yeah, but Orosira's like, doesn't really matter. It's like, no, actually, it does. And then we do have this does relate back to something that Vin eventually thinks at the end of this POV, where it's like she's wondering, she's worrying about certain things when she's like, no, I should just worry about the armies. I need to just worry about the human things. There's nothing coming for us. It's like actually the foreboding of the mists coming earlier, it means a lot more than just, it's just weather.
I mean, at some point it's going to be so noticeable, but they had just taken it for granted that the Lord Ruler did indeed stop the deepness, and presumably, and how much information was lost during the time of the Lord Ruler. Now, on one hand, he can't have removed it all because he needed that mythology that deified him, which is, I think, why ultimately some of the obligators and inquisitors may have left the conventicle of Saren, is because they see the signs. But for the Ska, for the people who have immediate armies on their doorstep, of course they're not going to care about global warming.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
I need to feed myself and not die in the next 20 minutes.
Yeah, sorry, I can't have that. But somebody's got to worry about it. Somebody's got to do something about it.
Someone should do something, just not me.
Somebody should fix that. I should get that checked out.
But also, presumably things will continue to get worse. Eventually, it's going to dawn on someone.
Yep. It's going to become, mist during the day. Hello. Yeah. Oh, and that also lends itself to the timey-wimey thingy. Because mist, well, I guess it wasn't mist during the day, just like all the mists coming early. It was like a patch or whatever. It was the creature appearing during the day.
Right.
So I'm wondering if, like you say, the Sazed Vin timeline is actually different. Maybe Vin is in the past, and now when we by the time we get to Sazed, the mists actually appear quite early. I don't know. I'm just thinking about what you said earlier. Didn't have that as a note.
I was actually thinking Sazed might be in the past and Vin is in the current.
In the current, okay. Well, yeah. I'm just thinking then it would be like, okay, what's happening with the mists in? Yeah. Okay, we'll get to that.
Part of why I'm thinking of that is because of the new character we meet at the end of this chapter.
Yes. We'll get to it. We'll discuss it. Cut this, please. Okay. Also, one more thing. Orosir is average. Like, we're like, oh, he's great at his job. He's great at his skills, whatever. And it's like, no, I'm just average. I'm just your average one. He's not neither good nor bad. So that's comforting. Thanks. The end.
Indeed. But this is probably your best method. Be warned, he could be anyone. My kind are very skilled.
It's not Elend. He was with me all day yesterday.
Except in the morning.
Too long. We were on the wall for hours, and those bones were freshly expelled. Besides, I'd know if it were him, wouldn't I?
She shook her head.
There has to be another way. Can I spot a conjurer with allomancy somehow?
Orosor didn't answer immediately. She turned toward him in the darkness, studying his canine face.
What?
These are not things we speak of with outsiders.
Tell me anyway.
Do you command me to speak?
I don't really care to command you to do anything.
Then I may leave? You do not wish to command me, so our contract is dissolved.
That isn't what I meant.
Orosor frowned, a strange expression to see on a dog's face. It would be easier for me if you would try to say what you mean, mistress. Vin gritted her teeth.
Why is it you're so hostile?
I'm not hostile, mistress. I'm your servant and will do as you command. That is part of the contract.
Sure. Are you like this with all of your masters?
With most, I am fulfilling a specific role. I have bones to imitate, a person to become, a personality to adopt. You have given me no direction, just the bones of this animal. Okay.
So that's... Yes, here it is.
Here it is. That's the line. So when Khandra adopts the bones of the body of someone, they take on that person's personality and so on. And I think because Orosor was given this dog, he will be given the opportunity to develop his own personality. And I think he's going to bond with Vin. And at some point, I believe Orosor is going to go rogue to help Vin in some way. Put that in the prediction log.
Okay, hold on. Get in there. At the very least, he's going to develop his own personality. He gets to be more of a person than most Khandra because he's actually not a person.
Yeah, I like that juxtaposition.
So
If
that's
true.
what I'm thinking. But I don't know about how. Yeah, I didn't really go all the way to him being rogue. I just did think, yes, he actually now has to be more of himself than what he's instructed to do. So, and that's strange for him, and I'm here for that journey. That's great.
Me too.
And also, it also gives us a lot of insight into how he feels. That is exactly why he's hostile with her as well. It's like he doesn't have the direction he's supposed to have. And it actually is kind of an insult to him.
And he doesn't know what to do. And all of this just serves to really make me like him.
I do like him too. Yeah. But he is still so strange and not human that if he did something, that I didn't like, I would be like, oh, well, he's a Khandra. That you don't know what it's like to be a Khandra. So.
Agreed. You have given me no direction, just the bones of this animal.
So that's it. Still annoyed by the dog's body. Look, those bones don't really change anything. You are still the same person.
You do not understand. It is not who a Khandra is that's important. It's who a Khandra becomes. The bones he takes, the role he fulfills. None of my previous masters have asked me to do something like this.
Well, I'm not like other masters. Anyway, I asked you a question. Is there a way I can spot a Khandra with allomancy? And yes, I command you to speak.
A flash of triumph shone in Orosor's eyes as if he enjoyed forcing her into her role. Khandra cannot be affected by mental allomancy, mistress.
Not at all?
No, mistress. You can try to riot or soothe our emotions if you wish, but it will have no effect. We won't even know that you are trying to manipulate us.
Like someone who's burning copper. That's not exactly the most useful bit of information,
she said, strolling past the Khandra on the roof. Testing for a Khandra by soothing someone's emotions wouldn't be definitive. When she soothed or rioted someone, she simply had to hope that they reacted as she intended. Allomanthers couldn't...
Yes, okay.
Go on.
No, I was wondering if this sentence that is in my book here was not in yours at all. And you started reading it, so.
Okay. So I suspect it's differently organized for you?
Yes. Mine goes, she said, strolling past, allomancers couldn't read minds or emotions. When they soothed or rioted another person, they simply had to hope that the person reacted as intended.
Interesting. When she soothed or rioted someone, she simply had to hope that they reacted as she intended. Allomancers couldn't read emotions or minds. If someone didn't react, that might mean they were a Khandra, but it could also simply mean that they were good at mastering their emotions. Orosor watched her pacing. If it were easy to detect Khandra, mistress, then we wouldn't be worth much as imposters, would we?
I suppose not.
Vin acknowledged, thinking about what he'd said made her consider something else.
Can a Khandra use allomancy? If they eat an allomancer, I mean.
Orosor shook his head.
That's another method then. If I can catch a member of the crew burning metals, then I know he's not the Khandra. Cool, so we have confirmation for that. That was good.
And memory question aside, she is asking very good questions.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing about, what did you think about the mind reading, not mind reading, but like emotion reading? I don't know how accurate that is.
Well, it's like, I mean, first off, if it's Clubs, we know Clubs has an extreme dislike of his emotions being influenced. So I don't know how willing he might be to turn off the copper. to be tested, and I don't know if he'd be willing to be tested. So that doesn't necessarily mean anything for him. But for the
Well,
rest, I don't know why you couldn't attempt a riot. And like if I attempted to riot you, Kite, right now, just to an extreme, absurd degree, at the very least, I might expect you to say, hey, Dorkus, why are you rioting me right now?
yeah.
Even if you could control yourself. So,
Like no reaction is a reaction.
yeah,
If you use allomancy in that way.
with a full-on attempt to arouse, at the very least, a strange glance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So,
and
yeah,
yeah.
I don't
No,
think it's
but
as useless as she thinks it is.
yeah, me too. And okay, this is now. Of course, you were thinking that he wouldn't turn off the copper to be tested. Now we know that okay, he it's okay. Him being able to burn the copper is good enough. But before that was before she asked that question. And
Right. Although, Vin could get creative.
Mhm.
I don't think she should be so quick to throw away options.
Yeah, but I mean, Orisa does have a point. Look, if it was that easy, it would have mattered. But
True.
we did also have the triumph in Orisu's eyes there. He was excited that she commanded him to answer, but then it's like, oh, I've said too much. Maybe that makes me think. Okay, how many people do know about this rule about of the Contra that they will not rule like this this quality of them theirs. How many people actually do know that allomancy can detect it? I suppose after years and years, somebody would have figured to ask a Chandra. But yeah, I was just wondering.
It could well be that all of the other Khandra are a lot more conservative than Orasur
Yes,
is in
he's
his,
like
yeah,
he's like a
willingness to,
Sazed version of the Chandra. He's
yeah.
just a weirdo. But yeah.
And we don't know how much the other Khandra have been able to develop their own personality in the way that Orasur has. So
Yeah. Just one more thing with emotional allomancy. I feel like there is some sort of reading that does happen when it's happening, some sort of feeling of the person's emotion. It might not be reading it exactly, but I feel like I don't like you can't do emotional allomancy without some sort of reading of the person's emotions or feeling of it. If anything, you would at least say an emotional allomancer is more sensitive to somebody trying to manage their emotions. So there is some sort of sense. It's not. It might not be a literal sixth sense or whatever, but they're more sensitive to reading people. Vin is like that. So
right.
yeah, these aren't easy answers, but there are methods that she can go about this. Like you said, like a proper rioting that is clunky and anyone would notice it.
Just smack you in the face with it, as
Yeah.
we had described Kelsier's rioting in the previous book. So
Exactly.
make it purposefully noticeable, just enough to, at the very least, get the person you're rioting to say, hey, stop rioting me. What the hell, man? Uncool.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And like that is you would get that impression, that reaction, I think, from most people.
Yeah.
What are you
And
doing?
whereas if you don't even know that you're being rioted,
then that's it.
Yeah.
Then you're found.
Yeah, and they even talked in the last book about how that's one of the ways you can spot a mistborn, is if they're burning while it doesn't appear to be burning.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
if it were easy to detect Khandra, mistress, then we wouldn't be worth much as imposters, would we?
I suppose not.
Vin acknowledged. Thinking about what he'd said made her consider something else.
Can a Khandra use allomancy? If they eat an allomancer, I mean.
Orasur shook his head.
That's another method, then. If I catch a member of the crew burning metals, then I know he's not the Khandra.
Wouldn't help with Doxon or the palace servants, but it would let her eliminate Ham and Spook.
There's something else. Before, when we were doing the job with Kelsier, he said that we had to keep you away from the Lord Ruler and his Inquisitors. Why was that?
Orasur looked away. This is not a thing we speak of.
Then I command you to speak of it.
Then I must refuse to answer.
Refuse to answer? You can do that?
Orasur nodded. We are not required to reveal secrets about Condra nature, mistress. It is...
In the contract. I really need to read that thing again.
So, presumably, Orasor did not have to tell Vin the other things.
Yes.
He chose to.
He chose to, yeah. It was just a slip. That's why I'm saying he was in that thing of very, very happy that she commanded him to do it. And that's why he did it, rather than the command actually being binding.
Yep. Yes, mistress. I've perhaps said too much already. Vin turned away from Orasor, looking out over the city. The mists continued to spin. Vin closed her eyes, questing out with bronze, trying to feel the telltale pulse of an allomancer burning metals nearby. Orasor rose and padded over beside her, then settled down on his haunches again, sitting on the inclined roof. Shouldn't you be at the meeting the king is having, mistress?
Perhaps later,
Vin said, opening her eyes. Out beyond the city, watchfires from the armies lit the horizon. Keep Venture blazed in the night to her right, and within it, Elend was holding council with the others. Many of the most important men in the government, sitting together in one room. Elend would call her paranoid for insisting that she be the one who watched for spies and assassins. That was fine. He could call her whatever he wanted as long as he stayed alive. She settled back down. She was glad Elend had decided to pick Keep Venture as his palace, rather than moving into Credit Shaw, the Lord Ruler's home. Not only was Credit Shaw too big to be properly defended, but it also reminded her of him, the Lord Ruler. She thought of the Lord Ruler often lately, or rather she thought of Reshek, the man who had become the Lord Ruler, a Terraceman by birth. Reshek had killed the man who should have taken the power at the Well of Ascension, and done what? They still didn't know. Yes, good. Ask that question, Vin.
Good.
Keep asking
Yes.
that until you come up with
No,
the answer.
answer.
That he didn't stop it.
Mm-hmm.
And done what? They still didn't know. The hero had been on a quest to protect the people from a danger simply known as the Deepness. So much had been lost. So much had been intentionally destroyed. Their best source of information about those days came in the form of an aged journal written by the hero of ages during the days before Reshek had killed him. It gave precious few clues about his quest.
Well, now we have whatever Sazed is getting.
Yep.
And also, it wasn't the hero of ages, apparently, according to those. Yeah, so, but hey, I like that. That was kind of a nod to the suspense of finding out what Sazed is doing. It's like, actually, we know that the dramatic irony is great.
Yeah.
Why do I even worry about these things? The Deepness is a thing 1,000 years forgotten. Ellen and the others are right to be concerned about more pressing events.
And still, Vin was strangely detached from them. Perhaps that was why she found herself scouting outside. It wasn't that she didn't worry about the armies. She merely felt removed from the problem. Even now, as she considered the threat to Luthadel, her mind was drawn back to the Lord Ruler.
You don't know what I do for mankind. I was your god, even if you couldn't see it. By killing me, you have doomed yourselves.
Those were the Lord Ruler's last words, spoken as he lay dying on the floor of his own throne room. They worried her, chilled her, even still. She needed to distract herself.
What kinds of things do you like, Condra?
I love that she asks this, she asked, turning to the creature who still sat on the rooftop beside her.
What are your loves, your hatreds?
I do not want to answer that.
Do not want to, or do not have to?
Do not want to, mistress. The implication was obvious.
You're going to have to command me.
She almost did, but something gave her pause. Something in those eyes, inhuman though they were. Something familiar. She'd known resentment like that. She'd felt it often during her youth, when she'd served crew leaders who had lorded over the followers. In the crews, one did what one was commanded, especially if one was a small waif of a girl without rank or means of intimidation.
If you don't wish to speak of it, then I won't force you.
Orasor was silent. He'll remember that. And it's going to be so rewarding when he does tell her something that he likes.
I love the way this is actually, I wrote a note, the turns have tabled! Because Vin, this was Calcia and Vin. Kelsier did have power that he could, in the beginning, he could just ask her, like try and make her answer things, right? Just by trying to force her. But that's how he gave her space in certain ways and didn't push her a lot of the time. And actually, that's how he gained her trust. And this is kind of what's happening now. She's got to give Orosur space in order to gain his trust. Don't use her power over him, the influence that she has, in a way that just suits her. Use it with grace, and therefore gain his respect. I loved this. I loved this thing. It's such a rich interaction. That bit about the resentment and things like that. It was perfect. That's more than Vin noticing, oh, he's still upset about the dog body. It's like, no, this is so much more. There's so much more to Orosur, and I love it.
You're teaching a robot to love.
Mm-hmm. A biorobot.
Orosur was silent. Vin breathed in the mist, its cool wetness tickling her throat and lungs.
Do you know what I love, Condra?
No, mistress.
The mists. The power. The freedom.
Orosur nodded slowly. From nearby, Vin felt a faint pulsing with her bronze. Quiet, strange, unnerving. It was the same odd pulsing that she had felt atop Keep Venture a few nights before. She had never been brave enough to investigate it again.
It's time to do something about that. Do you know what I hate, Condra?
She whispered, falling to a crouch, checking her knives and metals. No, mistress. She turned, meeting Orosur's eyes.
I hate being afraid.
So cool. Great line.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. She knew that the others thought her jumpy, paranoid. She had lived with fear so long that she had once seen it as something natural, like the ash, the sun, or the ground. Kelsier had taken that fear away. She was still careful, but she didn't feel a constant sense of terror. The survivor had given her a life where the ones she loved didn't beat her, had shown her something better than fear, trust. Now that she knew of these things, she would not quickly surrender them, not to armies, not to assassins, not even to spirits.
So cool. I love that.
Yeah, what an amazing couple of paragraphs. So well written.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
The character work is just, it's amazing. And just a note, okay, so she did say Kelsier had taken that fear away. Love that line. And then it's like the survivor. So she switches between them. He's the survivor and he's Kelsier to her. And yeah, we just spoke about trust. We just spoke about gaining trust and all of that. Just, it's so powerful just seeing that there. Let's go. Not even to spirits, okay?
Not even to spirits.
Follow if you can.
She whispered, then dropped off the rooftop to the street below. She dashed along the mist-slicked street, building momentum before she had time to lose her nerve. The source of the bronze pulses was close. It came from only one street over, in a building. Not the top, she decided. One of the darkened windows on the third floor, the shutters open. Vin dropped a coin and jumped into the air. She shot upward, angling herself by pushing against a latch across the street. She landed in the window's pit-like opening, arms grabbing the sides of the frame. She flared tin, letting her eyes adjust to the deep darkness within the abandoned room. And it was there, formed entirely of mists. It shifted and spun, its outline vague in the dark chamber. It had a vantage to see the rooftop where Vin and Orosur had been talking.
Ghosts don't spy on people, do they?
That is such an important line. Because it gives whatever this thing is some degree of sentience, yeah?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
We had wondered if it was just the locusts or the crops dying kind of a thing, where it's just this force. We haven't known if it's a person. I think at one point I had predicted that maybe it's like a new metal that we don't know about that hides people or turns them into mist, right? So I love how she's conceptualizing this as not just some spirit.
Yeah.
Good on her.
Yeah. Ghosts don't spy on people, do they?
Ska didn't speak of things like spirits or the dead. It smacked too much of religion, and religion was for the nobility. To worship was death for Ska. That hadn't stopped some, of course, but thieves like Vin had been too pragmatic for such things. There was only one thing in Ska lore that this creature matched: mist wraiths. Creatures said to steal the souls of men foolish enough to go outside at night. But Vin now knew what mist wraiths were. They were cousins to the Khandra, strange, semi-intelligent beasts who used the bones of those they ingested. They were odd, true, but hardly worth phantoms and not that dangerous. There were no dark wraiths in the night, no haunting spirits or ghouls, or so Kelsier had said. The thing standing in the dark room, its insubstantial form writhing in the mists, seemed a powerful counterexample. She gripped the sides of the window, fear her old friend returning.
Run, flee, hide. Why have you been watching me?
She demanded. The thing did not move. Its form seemed to draw the mists forward, and they spun slightly as if in an air current.
I can sense it with bronze. That means it's using allomancy, and allomancy attracts the mist.
The thing stepped forward. Vin tensed. Allomancy attracts the mist. Do you think these things are bringing the mists, beckoning the mists? It's not spying on her, it's bringing the mists?
Bringing them?
Yeah, like she was thinking, mists are coming awfully early nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
What if this thing isn't spying on her, it's doing a rain dance, for lack of a better comparison?
Yeah, it's very, that is possible. And or it's like it also is attracted to her allomancy itself. If the mist is attracted to allomancy, then maybe practicing or being an allomancer can also trigger these guys to come around. I don't know which one came first.
The chicken, definitely the chicken. That's not true. It was the egg. The thing stepped forward. Vin tensed. And then the spirit was gone. Vin frowned. That was it? She had... Something grabbed her arm. Something cold. Something terrible. But something very real. A pain shot through her head, moving as if from her ear and into her mind. She yelled, but cut off as her voice failed. With a quiet groan, her arm quivering and shaking, she fell backward, out of the window. Do you think the mist went into her ear?
Yeah, it was very specific that it went into it, like there was a pain in her ear.
Mm-hmm.
Very specific.
It was very specific, and I keep thinking the thing that stabbed Fennec hadn't been the same. We had imagined that something had essentially corrupted Fennec, maybe took him over. Do you think this thing tried to... Do you think Finn's okay?
I hope she's okay. Holy crap. Yeah. Oh, damn. I did not consider it all the way through that, like possession, or I hope it's just an attempt that failed, okay? That's what I hope.
I really hope that Vin has not been corrupted or possessed, or
maybe she's going to start hearing voices and things that are not from her past. I feel like that is you've called it there. That's something, because look, the ear is too specific. Why do you have to tell me about that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm. And just another thing, that it disappeared. So I'm like, okay, so remember when that thing attacked the farmer guy, he couldn't see it. So maybe I don't know, what I thought is like, when it's close to you, you can't see it. I don't know.
I do not know. I mean, if you can be invisible when you're about to attack a person, I would assume you would choose to be invisible.
Yeah.
Unless it's not weird.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Either way, very scary stuff. And her arm is just frozen. It's cold, which is also, just think about the where the Well of Ascension or whatever is supposed to be. It's icy. It's very cold there. Yeah.
It's mist.
Mm-hmm.
She fell backward out of the window. Her arm was still cold. She could feel it whipping in the air beside her, seeming to exude chill air. Mist passed like trailing clouds. Vin flared tin. Pain, cold, wetness, and lucidity burst into her mind, and she threw herself into a twist and flared pewter. She hit the ground and pushed herself up to her knees, her palms cool against the slick cobblestones. She could still feel the trailing chill in her left arm. "Mistress," Orasur said, darting from the shadows, "shall I go for aid?" Vin shook her head, forcing herself into a wobbling stand. She looked through swirling mists toward the black window above. She shivered. Her shoulder was sore from where she had hit the ground, and her bruised side throbbed, but she could feel her strength returning. She stepped away from the building, still looking up. Above her, the deep mist seemed ominous, obscuring.
No. The mists are my freedom. The night is my home. This is where I belong. I haven't needed to be afraid in the night since Kelsia taught me otherwise.
She couldn't lose that. She wouldn't go back to the fear. Still, she couldn't help the quick urgency in her step as she waved to Orasur and scampered away from the building. She gave no explanation for her strange actions. He didn't ask for one.
I also just as that last interaction, or lack of interaction there, that he doesn't ask questions. It's part of their relationship right now, is just not prying and just being in each other's space and building that trust. But yeah, that's a side note compared to what just happened.
I'm so scared. Keep in mind also that when Vin gets back to Elend, presumably at the end of this chapter, this is the condition she will be in.
Yeah.
Just
this kind of I've been betrayed by the mists, kind of.
No, she's been damaged. Her arm
Yes.
could be broken, she's bruised, etc. Not that that's totally unusual. It's just annoying that she would be returning given the other circumstances.
She's not at 100%.
Yeah, when she has to deal with this new person that I suspect is someone that will need to be impressed. I don't know if Vin is going to want to impress her, but well, we'll get to her later.
But yeah, the thing that I did take as well from that is the mists suddenly looked ominous to her. The mists are not her friend anymore in that moment. She just spoke about how much she loves them, though, the freedom and everything. And now the mists, just from that moment that she had there, it's like the mists hurt her, which is just makes me think of the deepness and the fact we know that the deepness and the mists are connected somehow. And remember, we spoke about what is the world like without the mists. And yeah, Vin wouldn't like a world without the mists.
No.
But she hasn't known anything else. So yeah.
This is very, very scary for her.
Yeah.
So.
Awesome chapter. I think this might be my favorite one so far.
It is. I mean, if the chapter had just ended there, I mean, the other half is fantastic too, but you're right. Yeah, this is top tier Sanderson writing so far. Not a missed moment, not a missed beat. Every line matters.
You hear that, right? Missed.
Now I can.
Mm-hmm. Sorry.
Okay. Now we get a very different environment. Ellen set a third pile of books onto the table, and it slumped against the other two, threatening to topple the entire lot to the floor. He steadied them, then glanced up. Breeze, in a prim suit, regarded the table with amusement as he sipped his wine. Ham and Spook were playing a game of stones as they waited for the meeting to begin. Spook was winning. Dachshund sat in the corner of the room, scribbling on a ledger, and Clubs sat in a deep plush chair, eyeing Elend with one of his stares. Any of these men could be an imposter. The thought still seemed insane to him. What was he to do? Exclude them all from his confidence? No, he needed them too much. The only option was to act normally and watch them. Vin had told him to try to spot inconsistencies in their personalities. He intended to do his best, but the reality was that he wasn't sure how much he would be able to see. This was more Vin's area of expertise. He needed to worry about the armies. Thinking of her, he glanced at the stained glass window at the back of the study and was surprised to see it was dark. That late already? So that's a quick connection to the mists are coming earlier.
What do you think about the keeping these guys in his confidence? I understand he has to kind of keep going, but one of the major flaws I see in what happens later is now someone knows everything, knows the plan.
True. It's very concerning, especially the nature of the plan that they have concocted as well.
Yeah. If one of the party, we'll get to it.
Yeah. That late already? My dear man, when you told us you needed to go and gather a few important references, you might have warned us that you were planning to be gone for so long. Yes, well, I kind of lost track of time. For 2 hours? Elend nodded sheepishly. There were books involved. If the fate of the Central Dominance weren't at stake, and if it weren't so fantastically enjoyable to watch Hammond lose an entire month's earnings to the boy there, I'd have left an hour ago. Yes, well, we can get started now. Ham chuckled, standing up. It's kind of like the old days. Cal always arrived late too, and he liked to hold his meetings at night, Mistborn hours. Spook smiled, his coin pouch bulging. We still use boxings. Lord Ruler Imperials as our coinage. We'll have to do something about that. I miss the charcoal board, though.
Ellen's always got these stray thoughts of how things need to change, and it's on his to-do list.
Yeah, and it's smart to... Well, it's interesting that he wants new coinage. I vaguely remember watching a history video, and if I can recall it well enough for our purposes here, after Byzantium fell, the fall of the Roman Empire, to the Ottoman Empire, all of the coinage still said Rome. I think they still more or less thought of themselves as Rome to grant themselves legitimacy and to make sure that the populace knew, hey, we're in charge. And they saw themselves maybe as the inheritors to Rome's legacy. Anyway, that's the idea. Now, where you get a slight hiccup for Elend here on this topic is they are the ones that stopped the Lord Ruler. So it might not necessarily be a one-to-one, but the point of all of this is to say that there are advantages to keeping the boxings.
Yeah. Call them something different. It's you don't have to destroy the city and rebuild it just because it was under a different rule. Now we change it. We change what we call things. We don't have to change the way they look. We don't, because also that would also be a logistical nightmare. You would also have to wait for coins to go out of circulation. That doesn't happen in those times. I don't know how you would do it, but I understand the sentiment. He wants to erase the Lord Ruler,
or at least define himself and his kingdom more.
Yeah, which it needs.
Yeah,
I think it needs that because is the Lord Ruler coming back? Like what? No, that's what you need the people not to be thinking like. But then at the same time, he's also clinging to Calcia. He's not looking. He doesn't think of the kingdom. I don't know what I've written there. Is just he clings to Calcia, but he wants to move on from the Lord Ruler. Also, going forward, just every single interaction from any of the crew members is suspicious to me in this whole thing. Okay, because I've got wait a second. Does Spook usually win?
Don't be suspicious. Does Spook usually win? Good question.
Does Spook usually win? Does Ham usually was that an exaggeration that Ham lost a month's earnings to Spook? Does Ham usually gamble? Those sort of things. I don't think that's going to be the answer that's in there. But I'm still looking. I'm still watching absolutely all of their moves. I'm like thinking, does Clubs usually sit in a plush chair? Like that's as far as I'm going.
Every single line is important. Every single one. If it didn't matter, it wouldn't be in the book. I miss the charcoal board, though, Spook said. I certainly don't. Kel had atrocious handwriting. Absolutely hideous, Ham said with a smile, sitting.
Ooh.
You have to admit, though, it was distinctive.
Hold up.
Is Ham
in my book
to call it hideous? What? In your book, what?
In my book, he says absolutely atrocious. Which he uses the exact words that Breeze used. Absolutely. And for me, being suspicious the whole time, he says absolutely atrocious. So I'm like, why would it was too on the nose for me that he used the same words.
Okay.
And just going back a little bit, Ham does remember Calcia having meetings at night, mistborn hours, right? So that could be an indication it's not him. But at the same time, it's a vague enough memory that you don't need. It's not very specific. You just, yeah, of course, Calcia had meetings at night. Maybe we know that through other means. Then Spook, on the other hand, has a specific memory here of the charcoal board, which I loved that reminder because that was one of our favorite scenes in the first book.
Me too.
So yeah, so like I enjoyed that, but so I'm like, it's a specific memory. So that's how I was looking at their behavior. Like, who remembers what? What kind of memory is it? So we've got Ham with a yeah, and we've got Spook with a very specific, and of course we don't know whether that even matters because we didn't get that answer from Vin and Orisia.
Hmm.
And now I've got this absolutely atrocious here, which I underlined in my book.
Absolutely atrocious. You have to admit, though, it was distinctive. It was that, I suppose. Kelsier, the survivor of Hathsin. Even his handwriting is legendary. Regardless, I think perhaps we should get to work. We've still got 2 armies waiting out there. We're not leaving tonight until we have a plan to deal with them. The crew members shared looks. Actually, Your Majesty, we've already worked on that problem for a bit. Oh? Well, I guess I did leave them alone for a couple of hours. Let me hear it then. Doxson stood, pulling his chair a bit closer to join the rest of the group, and Ham began to speak.
Underline! Ham began to speak. Why is Ham speaking?
To be fair, Ham is probably closest to Elend in the crew.
I know. But I'm wondering, what we haven't seen the dynamic with Doxson and together before in terms of with Elend. So you're right, he is closer, so he could probably land up speaking more. But Doxson has made a gesture that he's going to start speaking, and then Ham speaks. That was, I underlined it.
Here's the thing, Al. With 2 armies here, we don't have to worry about an immediate attack, but we're still in serious danger. This will probably turn into an extended siege as each army tries to outlast the other. They'll try to starve us out, weaken us and their enemies before attacking. And that puts us in a bind, because we can't last very long. The city is already on the edge of starvation, and the enemy kings are probably aware of that fact. They'll hem us in, keep us blockaded until we get desperate enough to side with one of them. Eventually, we'll have to do so. Either that, or let our people starve. The decision comes down to this. We can't outlast the others, so we have to choose which of those men we want to take over the city. And I would suggest making our decision quickly as opposed to waiting while our supplies run out. Now, at this point, you had referenced the chapter earlier, but we are definitely getting a comparison in our mind to that scene in the first book with the chalkboard and the initial plans. And since so much of this book, for Elend at least, is about comparing him to Kelsier, the parallels here are really well done, I think, yeah?
Yeah, no, definitely. Look, Kelsier wasn't in control and only made the plan he did open it up to their minds as well. He wanted all of them to come up with the plan together, but he still led. He still was the guy that was writing on the board, you know?
He commanded the room.
Yeah, he commanded the room, and Elend is just not at that level. He's willing to listen to them and hear them out, but he doesn't have his own presence. He's still got to work on that because they all have big personalities. He needs to take up space. Kelsier had the biggest personality, so he was the leader. he led with the charisma and all of that. Whereas now, I'm interested to see how Elend develops with this because he has to earn his place as well, keep earning his place as their leader, even though he is their king. So I love the interaction and I love the comparison.
By making a deal, we'll essentially be giving away our kingdom. True. However, what I gained us by bringing a second army is bargaining power. At least we are in a position to demand something in exchange for our kingdom. What good is that? We still lose. It's better than nothing. I think that we might be able to persuade Set to leave you as a provisional leader in Luthadel. He doesn't like the central dominance. He finds it barren and flat. Provisional leader of the city. That is somewhat different from king of the central dominance. It is, but every emperor needs good men to administrate the cities under their rule. You wouldn't be king, but you and our armies would live through the next few months, and Luthadel wouldn't be pillaged. I do appreciate that Doxan led in with needing good administrators, because that is very Doxan.
Very Doxan, yes. It was very on the nose, like, look, they're okay with him. Is it too on the nose? But also just an appreciation for the fact that they're calling it our kingdom, including Elend. Because in his mind, he says my city, this and that. And it always annoyed me, but he does say our kingdom, and they both do. Breeze says it as well.
Ham, Breeze, and Doxan all sat resolutely, looking him in the eye. Elend glanced down at his pile of books, thinking of his research and study. Worthless. How long had the crew known that there was only one course of action? The crew seemed to take Elend's silence as assent. Set really is the best choice, then? Perhaps Straff would be more likely to make an agreement with Elend. They are, after all, family.
Underlined!
Oh?
Why do you think I underlined it?
I don't know. Why?
Because I'm like, how much does Doxan know about Straff's relationship with Elend? Could this be see how suspicious I am of absolutely everything? Could this be him not understanding that Elend, or not having the clear understanding of Elend's relationship with his father being not really good? Or is it just because he wasn't around? I understand. I don't know. I'm just like, it's been a year. You should know this.
It could be worth putting out there just for the sake of exploring options.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, it's not completely implausible to bring it up as a suggestion, and kind of bringing it up for them to knock it down is also part of the conversation. So, but the point is, I underlined it. Okay. I'm just kidding.
Me too. Oh, he'd make an agreement, Elend thought, and he'd break it the moment it was convenient. But the alternative? Give the city over to this Set? What would happen to this land, this people, if he were in charge? Now you're thinking like a king, Elend. Good for you. Set is best. He is very willing to let others rule as long as he gets his glory and his coins. The problem is going to be that atium. Set thinks it is here, and if he doesn't find it, we simply let him search the city. Is that something Ham would suggest? Probably. Breeze nodded.
No, you see, I hate this. Every single line, you're like,
You'd have to persuade him that I misled him about the atium. And that shouldn't be too hard, considering what he thinks of me. Which is another small matter. You'll have to convince him that I've been dealt with. Perhaps he'd believe that I was executed as soon as Elend found out I had raised an army against him. The others nodded. Breeze, how does Lord Set treat the ska on his lands? Breeze glanced away. Not well, I'm afraid. Now see, I think we need to consider how to best protect our people. I mean, if we give everything over to Set, then we'd save my skin, but at the cost of the entire ska population of the dominance. Good Elend! This is an Elend that I like.
Good Elend. He is a good man, right? So he's got the principles, he's got the will, but he needs to work on his delivery, I suppose.
Yes.
With these people, like they took his silence for assent. I was like, there's never been silence with Kelsier, okay? Like, bro does not shut up. So I was just like, okay. And then also one of the lovely things that is shown in this also the comparison, the interaction is he's got this book smarts. He's got that, and then it took and he goes, how long did the crew members know about the way that we're supposed to go? So he doesn't have the street smarts. So he's got to learn that from the crew. And then he's got to bring in his own knowledge and his own principles, which we see this here. It's a good blend. But it's not easy. And I don't want it to be easy for Ellen. He has to earn all of this.
Yes.
Also, one more thing. I feel like this lends itself to that theory that you had that Breeze was caught helping in some way with insects thing like that gave him away, because he looks away. He glanced away, not well, I'm afraid. That just made me think of your theory there of why they fell out.
A very specific memory.
Yeah. So that I just wanted to point that out, that's what it made me think of.
Yay. Ellen, it's not a betrayal. Not if this is the only way. That's easy to say, but I'm the one that would have to bear the guilty conscience for doing such a thing. I'm not saying that we should throw out your suggestion, but I do have a few ideas that we might talk about. The others shared looks. As usual, Clubs and Spook remained quiet during proceedings. Clubs only spoke when he felt it absolutely necessary, and Spook tended to stay on the periphery of the conversations. Finally, Breeze, Ham, and Dachshund looked back at Elend. This is your country, your majesty. We're simply here to give advice. Very good advice, his tone implied. Yes, well, Ellen said, quickly selecting a book. In his haste, he knocked over one of the stacks, sending a clatter of books across the table and landing a volume in Breeze's lap. Sorry, Ellen said, as Breeze rolled his eyes and set the book back on the table. Ellen pulled open his own book. I liked that dropping of the thing. It speaks to his nervousness, and it was a small thing, but I appreciated it.
Yeah, really do.
Sorry, Ellen said, as Breeze rolled his eyes and set the book back on the table. Ellen pulled open his own book. Now, this volume had some very interesting things to say about the movement and arrangement of troop bodies. Elle, that looks like a book on shipping grain. I know. There weren't a lot of books about warfare in the library. I guess that's what we get for 1,000 years without any wars. But this book does mention how much grain it took to keep the various garrisons in the final empire stocked. Do you have any idea how much food an army needs? This is really, really smart, Ellen.
Yes, it's considering all things. It's not just the street smarts, it's the government smarts, the larger picture smarts that needs to be blended in.
Yep, and this is what could give them an edge. If they can get out of this immediate bind, then if Ellen decides to go on the offensive at some point, this kind of insight can grant them an edge.
Yeah.
Innovative war makers. You have a point. Usually it's a blasted pain to keep soldiers fed. We often had supply problems fighting on the frontier, and we were only small bands sent to quell the occasional rebellion. Ellen nodded. Clubs didn't often speak of his past fighting in the Lord Ruler's army, and the crew didn't often ask him about it.
Okay, so
fighting
we haven't
in the Lord Ruler's army? Wait, is that new lore? It didn't explicitly say he fought for the Lord Ruler, right?
I think he did.
We knew that he got it in fighting. I don't remember it being explicitly stated, though, that he fought for the Lord Ruler. I had assumed rebellion, but someone please correct me in the audience if I'm wrong here.
I do think it is. It's not. This is not a revelation. It certainly wasn't to me. That was his. Okay. He was in an organized army. Definitely, that's what I think.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't know. I could be wrong. Also, there is a memory as well. I'm looking at the memories. So it's an old memory. So it could work. I'm thinking
it's an old one, but it checks out.
So I'm worried because that's what I was also looking for. Is we've got memories, and what kind of memory is this? It's vague enough, or is it specific enough? I don't know. I'm just so suspicious. Anyway, let's continue.
Anyway, I'll bet both Set and my father are unaccustomed to moving large bodies of men. There will be supply problems, especially for Set since he marched so hastily. Maybe not. Both armies have secured canal routes into Luthadel. That will make it easy for them to send for more supplies. Plus, though much of Set's land is in revolt right now, he does still hold the city of Haverfrex, which contains one of the Lord Ruler's main canneries. Set has a remarkable amount of food a short canal trip away. Then we disrupt the canals. We find a way to stop those supplies from coming. Canals make resupply quick, but also vulnerable since we know exactly which route it will take. And if we take away their food, perhaps they'll be forced to turn around and march home. Either that, or they'll decide to risk attacking Luthadel. That's a possibility, but, well, I've been researching how to hold the city as well. He reached across the table, picking up a book. Now this is Gendella's City Management in the Modern Era. He mentions how difficult Luthadel is to police because of its extreme size and large number of scoff slums. He suggests using roving bands of city watchmen. I think we could adapt his methods to use in a battle. Our wall is too long to defend in detail, but if we had mobile bands of troops that could respond to... Your Majesty. Yes? We've got an army of boys and men who have barely a year's training, and we're facing not one overwhelming foe, but two. We can't win this battle by force. Oh, yes, of course. I was merely saying that if we did have to fight, I have some strategies. If we fight, we lose. We'll probably lose anyway. Yes, well, attacking the canal routes is a good idea, though. We can do that covertly, perhaps hire some of the bandits in the area to waylay supply barges. It probably won't be enough to send Set or Straff home, but we could make them each more desperate to ally with us. See, this is very good, and Elend has very good instincts here. Guerrilla warfare is how you fight against foes who are bigger than you.
Yeah, disrupt, do things like that. Also, just keeping track, Doxson hasn't spoken about the cost of this, which is, I guess it's fine.
Oh no.
He's like, yeah, we can hire people. It's like, oh, that'll be expensive though, Doxson. Come on, put that in. Doesn't tell us either way, I know.
And Clubs is speaking an awful lot.
Mm-hmm.
Set's already worried about instability back in his home dominance. We should send him a preliminary messenger. Let him know we're interested in an alliance. That way, as soon as his supply problems begin, he'll think of us. We could even send him a letter explaining Breeze's execution as a sign of good faith that... Elend cleared his throat. The others stopped talking and looked at him. I wasn't finished yet. I apologize, Your Majesty. See, on one hand, he got them going, and that is very good. Very good, Elend. He got them excited about things to do.
Yes. Got them
very
thinking,
good,
which
Elend.
Is what we need, which is what Kalthir did.
Yes, but at the same time...
Just not as assertive,
Yeah, they were running over him then. Like, their minds were going 1,000 a minute, and they just completely forgot him. Elend took a deep breath. You're right. We can't afford to fight those armies, but I think we need to find a way to get them to fight each other. A pleasant sentiment, my dear man, but getting those two to attack one another isn't as simple as persuading Spook over there to refill my wine. He turned, holding out his empty cup. Spook hesitated, then sighed, rising to fetch the wine bottle. That is very Spook.
Yeah.
Well, yes, but while there aren't a lot of books on warfare, there are a lot about politics. Breeze, you said the other day that being the weakest party in a three-way stalemate gives us power. Exactly. We can tip the battle for either of the two larger sides. Yes. Now that there are three parties involved, it's not warfare. It's politics. This is exactly like a contest between houses. And in-house politicking, even the most powerful houses can't stand without allies. The small houses are weak individually, but they are strong when considered as a group. I thought you hated house warfare, Elend.
I don't play their games, but you seem to know the rules.
And you know you have to now. We're like one of those small houses. If we want to make any gains, we're going to have to get our enemies to forget about us, or at least make them think us inconsequential, if they both assume that they have the better of us, that they can use us to defeat the other army, then turn on us at their leisure. Then they'll leave us alone and concentrate on each other. You're talking about playing both sides, Elend. It's a dangerous position to put ourselves in. Breeze nodded. We'd have to switch our alliance to whichever side seems weaker at the moment, keep them snapping at each other, and there's no guarantee that the winner between the two would be weakened enough for us to defeat. Not to mention our food problems. What you propose would take time, Your Majesty, time during which we'd be under siege, our supplies dwindling. It's autumn right now. Winter will soon be upon us. It will be tough and risky, but I think we can do it. We make them both think we're allied with them, but we hold back our support. We encourage them against one another, and we wear away at their supplies and morale, pushing them into a conflict. When the dust settles, the surviving army might be just weak enough for us to beat. Breeze looked thoughtful. It has style, and it does kind of sound fun. Duxon smiled. You only say that because it involves making someone else do our work for us. Breeze shrugged. Manipulation works so well on a personal level, I don't see why it wouldn't be an equally viable national policy.
That's really funny. I like that Breeze line.
Yes.
But what is happening here is, yes, again, Elend has got their minds going, and this is exactly what Calcia did do. And then Calcia also gave them a plan that was so crazy, and then their own characteristics made them want to go for it. So here is the similarity. So it's working. He is still doing Calcia things.
Yes. He's tapping into how to make this work.
Yeah, and he knows what he's doing with it, actually. He has insight into it. We'll see.
And at this point, I was beginning to wonder, okay, great, but what about the assembly? Are they just going to be cool with this? Can you do this, Elend? And if you tell the assembly, secrets out, everyone's going to know.
What do you tell the assembly? Well, we'll see. And that base is covered somewhat.
Yeah. Manipulation works so well on a personal level, I don't see why it wouldn't be an equally viable national policy. And that's the way of most rulership. What is a government but an institutionalized method of making sure somebody else does all the work? The plan?
Ham is doing good Ham things. Ham is being the philosopher. He's asking that sort of question. But would Ham give up that easy?
And would Ham have that perspective or ask that specific question? Is that what governments do? Or does this just kind of sound vaguely philosophical?
Yeah, vaguely. Yeah. Is it too on the nose? Is it too little on the nose? I hate this. I don't know. I don't have anything. I could say, I'm calling everything so that I could say, you see, I called it.
I don't know, Al. It sounds like one of Cal's. Foolhardy, brave, and a little insane. He seemed surprised to hear Elend propose such a measure. I can be as foolhardy as any man, Elend thought indignantly, then hesitated. No, that's good! Good, Elend! Did he really want to follow that line of thought? Yeah.
He's got to be brave, but the thing is, you're in this predicament. You need to take extraordinary measures. I'm sorry. You do need to be a bit foolhardy.
Think bravely, Elend. Dare to dream. We could get ourselves into some serious trouble. If either side decides it's tired of our games, they'll destroy us. But, well, gentlemen, you're gamblers. You can't tell me that this plan doesn't appeal to you more than simply bowing before Lord Set. Ham shared a look with Breeze, and they seemed to be considering the idea. Doxon rolled his eyes, but perhaps he was objecting simply out of habit. No, they didn't want to take the safe way out. These were the men who had challenged the Lord Ruler, men who had made their livelihood scamming noblemen. In some ways, they were very careful. They could be precise in their attention to detail, cautious in covering their tracks, protecting their interests. But when it came time to gamble for the big prize, they were often willing. No, not willing. Eager. Great. I've filled my inner council with a bunch of thrill-seeking masochists. Even worse, I've decided to join them. What else could he do? I don't know about that. Maybe?
What else could he do? He could do nothing.
No, I mean having filled his inner council with thrill-seeking masochists.
Yeah, I don't think that's exactly... It's just a little... You could sometimes characterize them that way, but No,
It
they're
seems
just
like
they're
a
daring.
nihilistic interpretation of them,
Yeah, but I
or
think
disingenuous.
yeah, disingenuous. It's over the top.
Yeah. It's a dramatic interpretation.
Mm-hmm.
We could at least consider it. It does sound exciting. Now, see, I didn't suggest this because it was exciting, Breeze. I spent my youth trying to plan how I would make a better city of Luthadel once I became leader of my house. I'm not going to throw away those dreams at the first sign of opposition. What about the assembly? That's the best part. They voted in my proposal at the meeting 2 days back. They can't open the city gates to any invader until I meet with my father in parley. Aha!
Mm-hmm. And but the thing is, it is the father. It has to be meet his father, but still, it is a way.
Yeah, but what constitutes a parley? Because you're gonna have to meet with him, presumably, if you're pretending to be his ally.
Yeah.
Unless you plan on sending other people. But we know that Straff is likely stronger. We heard it twice a couple chapters back. So at the very least, he's probably going to be meeting with Set first.
Yeah.
The crew sat quietly for a few moments. Finally, Ham turned to Ellen, shaking his head. I really don't know, Al. It sounds appealing. We did discuss a few more daring plans like this while we were waiting for you, but what? A plan like this depends a lot on you, my dear man. You'd have to be the one to meet with the kings, the one to persuade them both that we're on their side. No offense, but you're new to scamming. It's difficult to agree to a daring plan that puts a newcomer in as the linchpin member of the team. I can do this. Really? Ham glanced at Breeze, then both glanced at Clubs. The gnarled general shrugged. If the kid wants to try it, then let him.
Is that something Klaus would say?
Is it? Is it?
Does he want to encourage it? Wouldn't he just say, "Oh, the kid is crazy"?
If you're a Khandra, you can use this to sow discord.
Mm-hmm. No, exactly. That's another thing I was trying to also see is how does this serve who? Like, what are they? Who are they serving with their opinions to try and align them with supposed whoever they're representing? It's the point is you don't know by the end of the chapter, of course.
I can do this. Really. If the kid wants to try it, then let him. I guess I agree. As long as you're up to this, Al. I think I am, Ellen said, covering his nervousness. I simply know we can't give up. Not easily. Maybe this won't work. Maybe after a couple months of being besieged, we'll just end up giving away the city anyway. But that gives us months during which something could happen. It's worth the risk to wait rather than fold. Wait and plan. All right, then. Give us some time to come up with some ideas and options, Your Majesty. We'll meet again in a few days to talk about specifics. All right, sounds good. Now, if we can move on to other matters, I'd like to mention a knock came at the door. At Ellen's call, Captain Demure pushed open the door, looking a little embarrassed. Your Majesty, I apologize, but we caught someone trying to listen in on your meeting. What? Who? Demure turned to the side, waving in a pair of his guards. The woman they led into the room was vaguely familiar to Ellen. Tall, like most Terrace, she wore a bright-colored but utilitarian dress. Her ears were stretched downward, the lobes elongated to accommodate numerous earrings. I recognize you. From the assembly hall a few days ago. You were watching me. The woman didn't answer. She looked over the room's occupants standing stiffly, even haughtily, despite her bound wrists. Ellen had never met a Terrace woman before. He'd only met stewards, eunuchs trained from birth to work as manservants. For some reason, Ellen had expected a Terrace woman to seem a bit more servile.
For some reason, for those reasons, you would expect a Terrace woman to be servile because Terrace are servile people, right?
Yes. And yet this one is haughty. Now, I'll go into more detail a little bit later, but I was wondering if she is the Synod, if the Synod is a person and this is her. From the way Sazed talked about a Synod, I was under the impression that it was some sort of ruler or ruling council or something, a leader. So she is definitely giving off leader vibes.
Yeah. She's important. Even
Yeah.
like this might not be just, oh, it's just Terrace Woman, I like this. No, it's just her. She is something. Like, I mean, you'll see later as well. Like there's a line where you're like, okay, well.
Yeah, and I'm waiting to get to it
Mhm.
to say things.
She was hiding in the next room over. I'm sorry, Your Majesty. I don't know how she got past us. We found her listening against the wall, so I doubt she heard anything. I mean, those walls are made of stone.
Ellen met the woman's eyes. Older, perhaps 50. She wasn't beautiful, but neither was she homely. She was sturdy with a straightforward, rectangular face. Her stare was calm and firm, and it made Ellen uncomfortable to hold it for so long. So, what did you expect to overhear, woman? That's a bit blunt? What's the word I'm looking for from Ellen?
Yeah, it's a
Direct?
rude woman. Yeah, direct.
Yeah.
But the thing is, this person has been caught listening in.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's unwarranted. It's like, well, woman, what were you gonna hear?
I agree.
I'm okay with it and acting that way. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I am too. 100%. I was just a bit surprised to hear him like that.
Yeah.
The terrace woman ignored the comment. She turned to the others and spoke in a lightly accented voice. I'm so excited for this.
No!
Let's hear it. Yeah, let's go.
Oh, I didn't practice it. I was supposed to practice it. Okay. I'm trying. So, yeah. I would speak with the king alone. The rest of you are excused.
I love it. It's great. So
That's
good.
right. It's not Southern. That's great.
And at this point, I hate this woman. I hate this woman. I hate her. I hate her. I hate her. Who are you to come in here and give orders like that?
Yeah, she did. You're so right about. I didn't have the Scion thingy in my head, but you're so right. She really is the complete opposite of a terrace man, a terrace steward, or just even just a keeper. She is. She thinks everything of herself, and you better agree.
The balls on this woman.
Right.
So, as much as I really, really dislike her, I think she's good. I think she is going to be a morally good character, more or less, who wants good things for Ellen and the world and Vin.
Yeah, she's not a baddie.
Yes, exactly. Perfect way of putting that. And I suspect some of that is I have meta opinions for that. I mean, one, she's coming off as so dislikable. Of course, she's going to be that character. But I do think that Brandon Sanderson is a little bit influenced by Wheel of Time. And I do remember in one of his lectures, he talked about the Gandalf archetype and loving how Wheel of Time reversed that and made the Gandalf type a woman. And I remember him talking about how much he loved that, like, there was something mysterious about this woman Gandalf figure. So I think he's inspired by that in this character.
There's several that you could characterize as the woman Gandalf in Wheel of Time, but I'm seeing a lot of Wheel of Time's influence in Brandon Sanderson's writing. So I'm excited. I can see why he was chosen.
Yeah.
Well. So I'm enjoying it as a Wheel of Time fan. Oh, loving it.
Excellent. And that is my meta reason for why I think she will be a goodie and not a baddie.
I would speak with the king alone. The rest of you are excused.
Ham smiled. Well, at least she's got nerve. Dachshund addressed the terrace woman. What makes you think that we would leave our king alone with you?
His Majesty and I have things to discuss.
The woman said in a businesslike manner, as if oblivious to or unconcerned about her status as a prisoner.
You needn't be worried about his safety. I'm certain that the young Mistborn hiding outside the window will be more than enough to deal with me.
Ellen glanced to the side toward the small ventilation window beside the more massive stained glass one. How would the terrace woman have known that Finn was watching? Her ears would have to be extraordinarily keen. Keen enough, perhaps, to listen in on the meeting through a stone wall? Ellen turned back to the newcomer. You're a keeper. She nodded. Did Sazed send you?
It is because of him that I am here. but I was not sent.
So that's what makes me worried that Sazed is written in the past. I think something happened to Sazed. Perhaps he went missing.
Oh.
Or at the very least, I suspect she knows that he abandoned his post, for lack of a better term.
Oh, okay. I don't see it that way. I thought that she is the help that he sent. In any
But
case,
she just said, yeah, she wasn't sent.
Yeah, that's just her. For me, that was just her ego. She's like, I am here because of him. But I see what you mean. Like the fact that she's saying I'm here because of him is because he's abandoned his post, I've come here.
Yeah, and I suspect
it's like a misdirect. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think she's coming to say something like, you guys have corrupted Sazed, and now he's missing, and so help me, if something bad happens to him, I'm holding you all responsible. Like, I'm expecting her to come in adversarially and holding them responsible for Sazed's actions.
I can see that. That's wholly plausible. What I saw at the first time, what I saw the first time was more she resents Sazed.
Yeah, she doesn't want to.
Yeah.
Yeah, she doesn't want to feel as if she was sent. She's choosing to do it. Sort of that petulant mentality. I could see it going that way as well.
We will find out.
Yeah, you're a keeper.
She's not a keeper, considering Dorkus doesn't like her.
Did Sazed send you?
It is because of him that I'm here, but I was not sent.
Ham, it's all right. You can go. Are you sure?
Leave me bound if you wish.
If she really is a feruchemist, that won't be much of a hindrance. Of course, if she really is a feruchemist, a keeper like Sazed, I shouldn't have anything to fear from her. Theoretically. The others shuffled from the room, their postures indicating what they thought of Elend's decision. Though they were no longer thieves by profession, Elend suspected that they, like Vin, would always bear the effects of their upbringing. We'll be right outside, El, Ham, the last one out, said, then pulled the door shut.
End chapter.
End chapter. And an excellent one.
And also, it could be Captain Demir. I hope it is him, because I don't want it to be one of the crew members. Okay.
I agree.
But also, just one more thing as well. Always one more thing. Now, if it is one of the crew members, they know that the Khandra knows that they're going to play both sides. That's a big reveal. So I'm very much hope it isn't one of them.
Yep, I agree. It's going to be hard to play both sides when both sides know you're playing both sides.
Yeah, at least one side knows that they're playing both sides. So...
Oh, man. I don't know that there's anything else for me to say, at least right now.
We've got it. That's a long one, and we had lots of comments along the way. So you know what you got to do? You got to hit the like button.
Subscribe to that darn kitty?
Nope. Like button. This one. Like button. Yes. And subscribe to the NOAY podcast if this is the first time you visited it.
It would be appreciated, but you already know all that. So I'll simply say thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week. Okay, thanks.
Bye.